Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Cloud Academy platform demo. Really excited to be speaking with you. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time just to hear about what we do and what we're currently solving for. My name is Mark Smith. I am the Director of Solutions Engineering here at Cloud Academy. I have my colleague, Jermaine Hernandez on. Jermaine, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hello, everyone. My name is Jermaine Hernandez, and I'm a sales engineer, as Mark mentioned. I'll be leading the demo here shortly, but up front, I do want to say thank you to all of you, whether you're here live or listen to the recording in the future. We really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jermaine. I appreciate that. So a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We've already gone through the greetings. Again, we're very excited to have you here. Appreciate you taking this time. Jermaine's going to go through a full-fledged demo of the platform. You'll hear my voice every now and then kind of giving you some examples. Throughout the demo here, if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the chat box. If there are any questions, we'll answer those at the end through a Q&A. But again, feel free to type those in, and we'll get to those at the very end of the call. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jermaine to start the demo, which is what everyone wants to see anyway. So again, Jermaine, I'll turn it over to you, man.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Mark. So for the demonstration, I thought it would be incredibly valuable for you to have a good understanding of the administrative features. So this includes everything from getting it up and running and adding all of your end users. More importantly, we'll also visit the reporting. From there, I'll then transition to the end user experience, where you can see precisely what your learners would be experiencing within our platform. And last but certainly not least, I'll talk a little bit about customization through our content engine. So let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, all of your end users will need to be organized into various teams. How those teams are organized is completely up to you. You can organize by job title, by geographic location, perhaps more importantly, by business objective. Now, some of you may or may not be administrators of the system. The administrator is responsible for provisioning licenses, assigning teams, assigning training, and they have access to the data across the entire organization. Within the teams themselves, we are going to see two additional roles, that of a team manager and a team member. So the team members are simply going to be your end users. The team manager is they can be thought of as a pseudo administrator. So by that I mean, if Byron is listed as the team manager, he has the ability to edit this team, assign training, and view data for any team in which he's listed as a team manager. So it can really help spread out the work, especially if you are coming from a larger organization. Once we've organized all of our end users into their various teams, we're ready to go to the next step within the platform, which is going to be the assessments. Now, at Cloud Academy, we greatly value assessments. We think it is a pivotal part to any true robust learning. But more importantly, the assessments are going to capture a baseline understanding of where skills lie today, feed that information into the skill profile, which we will see here shortly, and it's going to help identify skill gaps. I'll show you our out-of-the-box assessments. All of these can be customized, but the assessments will come in an exam format and a hands-on lab, in this case, a challenge. So what we're going to see through the end user side, we'll see what a guided lab looks like, but this challenge lab means it is unguided. So we put the lab in front of them, say, show us you can get from A to Z to prove those practitioner level skills. Once the assessments are complete, you're going to have access to the results, where if you do have a multi-cloud vendor approach, you'll see all three of those platforms listed up here. Further on down, we're going to start seeing how we're performing across a handful of core domains, and we'll even show you some strengths. However, another incredibly powerful part of the assessment is that both administrators and team managers will have access to the individual assessment scores. So although it's wishful thinking that everybody will get a perfect 100 on these assessments, truly what we're concerned about here is going to be those outliers. So somebody that scored on the lower end might need a little bit more foundational or fundamental work, whereas someone that got 100 might be ready to jump right into something more advanced.
Yeah, this is, Jermaine, this is so critical. Sorry about that. Just want to kind of talk a little bit about this. So it's so critical in getting that baseline, as you alluded to. It's really difficult to take into account, like to know where you want to go without knowing where you're actually starting from. So the number of times that we've, I've been on conversations as you as well, where part of the issue is we don't know what we don't know. So we've got these lofty goals, but we don't necessarily know where we're at with these. It's a skills gap that's present in the majority of organizations because how dominant cloud is becoming, and it's one that people can't necessarily hire their way out of. So this is a critical component to starting this off in the model, the strategic approach to assessing exactly what skills are present. So this is it's proved to be very valuable. And then the process of continual assessment throughout, which Jermaine is going to talk about as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there as this being a really, really core component that we started off on the right foot by getting that baseline.
That's a phenomenal point, Mark. Thanks for adding that. So now that we've identified those skill gaps, we're ready to start prescribing the appropriate training. So training can be assigned either to an entire team or to an individual user. I'll be walking through the steps to assign it to a team. So you're going to hear me say training plan and learning path a few more times throughout the rest of the demonstration. So we're all on the same page. A learning path is our approach to learning, our learn, validate, and do model. So this is going to be a combination of courses, exams, quizzes, and labs on a particular topic. The training plan is how we add the accountability. The training plan is simply the mechanism to assign various learning paths. So let's jump in here and assign the very first training plan. So as you're seeing here, you're seeing all of our out-of-the-box training plans. I mentioned you can customize essentially anything within this platform. So if you've customized content, that will be tagged where appropriate. You can also very easily and quickly filter by platform or variety of topics. So once we're here, perhaps we have a big focus on security within AWS. Tends to be front of mind for most folks. But here's where we can really start talking about accountability. Based on the content duration for this training plan, both administrators or team managers will be able to dictate what they expect the weekly commitment from their end users will look like. And as I adjust the slider, you'll notice the due date changes with me. Conversely, if I know for a fact that I have a very big, important customer deadline coming up on April 1st of 2021, I can select that as a due date and see what kind of weekly commitment it would take to ensure that we are prepared. Lastly, the training objectives help us in aligning and communicating the value to your end users. I'll go ahead and assign this first training plan and return back to that team we were looking at. So now we're seeing this initial training plan with today's date, along with that deadline we set together. But what's truly going to make training plans unique is going to be the ability to sequence and stack these training plans. So I'm going to come in here and add a second training plan. And now this may, let's go with big data maybe. So now you're seeing those dates as I mentioned, and as your end users are completing this training plan, even if it's well in advance of that deadline, they will seamlessly transition into the very next training plan. In this fashion, we can help you maintain momentum towards learning. We even have some customers that are scheduling out for a full calendar year in advance.
Yeah, this is, Jermaine, this is, the accountability part is really critical here. I came from an instructor-led training background, so people were in the class, you knew they were there, they were accountable. What they did with that after they got out, was, hard to measure, the efficacy of the training, but at least the accountability was there. this is the closest you can get to that, because you can actually see, and I know you're going to go into a little bit more of additional accountability features, but one of the things here is that you can actually, when you're sequencing these out, I was just working with the customer, and Jermaine talked about this, full calendar years in advance. You've got deadlines that you're working against, different milestones, that you have to make sure that you're skilled up and ready to capitalize on. Sequence these out in line with what those milestones are, giving you that predictability around, here's where we're at now, here's where I anticipate we'll be, by the end of Q1 2021. So it's the accountability coupled with the predictability, makes training plans just such a unique feature, and it's really been phenomenal to see the adoption and how well people have been able to kind of get a handle on some of the chaos that tends to result by not having that accountability online.
Absolutely, that accountability is pivotal to seeing growth in the consumption within a platform. So, absolutely agree. But as you mentioned, as Mark mentioned, there are some additional accountability features built into the system. Once a training plan is assigned, you're going to be able to jump into that training plan from the Training Plans tab. We're going to communicate the individual user's progress, some high-level statistics, and how they're tracking based on the deadline you set. If we're concerned about Tristan because he is 9 days behind, they will receive automatic nudges up to 3, but we can come in here and manually send a nudge. So you'll get to see our stock language and customize it to your liking. Lastly, individual end users will receive a weekly email communicating their own progress, where the team manager will get a very similar email communicating the team's overall progress. So now that we've put all of this work into the platform, what is going to be the big payoff? In my opinion, that's going to be the reporting. So the first reporting area I'll introduce you to is going to be our analytics. Our analytics are a consumption metric. These tend to be pretty popular with folks in HR, in particular if you're tying learning goals, objectives to quarterly goals or milestones. But how it can be more useful for you, in particular if you have an aggressive certification deadline, you can drill down across any of our learning activities. For example, I can drill down into exams, and you're going to notice my organizational leaderboard will update with me. Whereas before I was seeing overall consumption, now I'm seeing any end user that has taken any exam. We can take it one step further. I can drill down into a particular certification exam, see who has taken that exam, some high-level statistics, and their last score. In the event that your employees are fortunate enough to perhaps receive a voucher to take this exam, this score can absolutely help you in figuring out who's ready to receive that voucher and who might need a little bit more time within our platform. However, what is absolutely going to set Cloud Academy apart is going to be our skill profiles. As you might recall, assessments capture a baseline understanding of where skills lie today. And as your end users are consuming labs, quizzes, and exams, we're continuously gauging how those skills are growing and changing across time. We once more have our organizational leaderboard. Over on the left, we're going to see a variety of different topics that we can drill down into, very similar to how we just did in the analytics. So up at the top, you're seeing all 3 platforms and Alibaba. Before, we saw a few core domains within the assessments. Now we're looking at a far more exhaustive list of domains. And we can drill down across concepts or softwares and tools like Docker, Ansible, Kubernetes. Now I'm going to drill down into our AWS skill profile. So now we're seeing our top domains within AWS, how our overall AWS skills have grown, and our top AWS users. I can take it one step further. I'm going to drill down into security. Now we're seeing how we're performing across different platform subdomains and services, how our AWS security skills have increased, and our top users. In addition to being able to see the organizational view from the user perspective, we can also organize this across teams. In particular, this can be helpful if you're needing some assistance in assigning the right team to the right project. This way you ensure that they're better prepared.
Yeah, this is skill profiles has been, I know you share this as well. It's one of my favorite things to look at, and that it's so unique. It's not, I watched this course and I obviously know this because I watched it 20 times. I actually watched this course and then I went and put it into application, either through a lab or testing through, ongoing assessments through the quizzes and exams. So this is that validation aspect, that you can use as you're kind of working through your model and making sure that the KPIs that you've established for the training program are being met. So we do this on it's a multifaceted approach, and we do measure this multiple ways with our customers. They use these for different ways as well. Anything from engaging in consulting agreements to putting people on projects to mentoring new hires, even quarterly performance reviews. There's tons of different applications that can be used for these skill profiles. But again, being able to look at the practitioner level skills on your bench is so important. And that's something that's continuously going to be validated throughout the training program. It's the most important return on investment that you can get when working inside any training platform.
Yeah, that ROI is definitely an important piece, Mark. And we've seen it. This tends to be one of the favorite areas for the C-level suite of folks, because this is a true representation of how skills are changing and growing. I'm now going to transition to the end user side of the house. Please don't forget to post any questions you might have into the chat box. We'll be sure to answer those. But now we're looking at the end user dashboard. I'm going to start on the assessments tab. Once assessments are assigned, we're going to be able to see which assessments were assigned, along with being able to jump right into those. The activity tab is going to have a Netflix feel to it. So anything you've started, you can jump right back into that. But more importantly, our data scientists added a recommendation engine here. So based on the content you're consuming, we're going to recommend some topics for you. You may have seen when I initially opened up the dashboard that we're also going to communicate not only your own progress against those training plans, but as a little bit of gamification here, we're also going to be able to monitor our progress compared to our fellow team members. So we really want to try to encourage them to keep up with one another. We do have a mobile app available in both iOS and Android. So whenever we can all start commuting once again, this is going to be a great way to consume content on the go. And a recent addition that I absolutely love was the ability to self-assign a training plan. So if you're interested in a particular topic, perhaps something that you're not going to be using in your day-to-day work life, but something you're interested in learning more about, you can absolutely self-assign yourself any training plan. The most important piece from this end user dashboard is going to be the individual's skill profile. Previously, we were seeing how our skills grew at an organizational level, but now we're seeing how Michael's skills have grown and changed across time. Just like before, we have all of the exact same topics over on the left-hand side. We also provide a leaderboard, which can be suppressed, but it will only reflect the top 10 users for a given category and show my relation to those 10 users. So once more, we can drill down into AWS and then AWS security. Or he may not actually have anything. Let's look at DevOps for AWS. So once more, we're seeing those subdomains and services. And of course, the leaderboard. So this can absolutely, as to Mark's point, be a really good indicator even for Michael to say, I'm going to reach out to Ben to get a little bit of guidance and assistance on this because I can see that he's so strong in this area. The ultimate takeaway here is that we absolutely want to empower you as an end user to take control and responsibility of your own learning journey. Speaking of that journey, let's see what it's going to look like once we're actually in a learning path. So we do have a public-facing training library. I encourage all of you to take a look around. We organize all of our content into various categories over on the left-hand side. So you'll see All3 public cloud vendors, Alibaba, emerging tech, and other additional items like DevOps. So if I drill down into, say, the AWS category, now I'm seeing all of the different learning activities that we have that support AWS. I can filter once more by learning paths and perhaps focus on certifications. So if we have a pretty aggressive solutions architect deadline that we're trying to meet, I'll jump into this learning path so you can see that you can send this to your phone, some high level statistics. This can be tied to a CPE credit. We'll also provide a certificate of excellence upon completion of this learning path. Over here in the middle, we're going to see an overall description along with objectives. And if we continue to scroll, we'll see all of the different learning steps that make up this learning path. We also pride ourselves on keeping our content up to date and staying abreast of those changes as they come down the pipeline. So we're going to communicate at the bottom a change log that will show you what has been changed and when. So I'll jump into a course here. One of the topics that we've taken into account here is that we understand that your end users don't want to receive a 2-hour video and be expected to see it in one sitting. So instead, what we've done at Cloud Academy is we have broken down all of these courses into smaller, more bite-sized modules. So you can better plan for how much time you can dedicate to coursework, perhaps. But more importantly, this is going to have a phenomenal impact on the ability to search our library. So you can search for these micro-learning courses, as we call them. So if you're looking at monitoring EC2 instances, you can search just that, and this course will pop up. We can also speed up or slow down and access the transcript if need be. Moving to the labs, this area is going to be a true differentiator for us here at Cloud Academy for 2 big reasons. First is going to be that our labs, as you'll see here shortly, are text-based. This makes us far more agile and nimble in making those updates as they come. And secondly, as you're seeing over on the left-hand side, you're going to be using Cloud Academy provision credentials to spin up an instance. So when I'm personally making my way through these learning paths, I like to go split screen. So now all we need to do is copy and paste the username, copy and paste the password. Oh, let me copy one more time. Oh, there it is. Just a little hiccup. And just like that, we have spun up our own instance within an AWS Management Console. The final piece that I'll mention regarding labs is we do bridge the connection between the console and the lab environment. So once your end users have to complete something within the console, you're going to come across various validation checks. These validation checks will either confirm or deny if you were successful in what was expected. This is also what is being fed into that skill profile to showcase how those skills are growing now that we have this knowledge, or we need to go back and fix it. The final piece I'll show you for the end user will be the ongoing assessments.
One thing, hey, Jermaine, sorry about that. The cardinal sin of being on mute and talking. On the labs, one thing about the labs, I mean, obviously it's such an important component having the hands-on experience. So, with the different variations of the labs that we have, I wanted to touch a bit on that. You talked a little bit about the challenge labs, which are the unguided scenarios and those screenshots. You've got to navigate from an initial starting point to completion, which is great, especially if you're looking to set people up and understand how well they could function before you turn them into a production environment. So those challenge labs are excellent. We've got command line interface labs as well, so you can actually use those, as well as some playground labs, which are relatively open. So all of these have kind of combined for a really phenomenal experience when it comes to getting that hands-on practical application, which is just such an important component. And these are 100% managed and provisioned by us with no additional cost. And like you said, they can go through and do these as many times as they want with the subscription. So just wanted to add that there.
Yeah, and on top of that, of course, we can help you customize the lab environments. So if you want to mirror a particular tech stack, we can help you with that. I think that is a phenomenal way to learn a practical usage of those environments. So going back to the ongoing assessments, if we're talking about a certification path, the final assessment in that learning path will mirror the real world certification exam in terms of time and number of questions. We also have a very large library of questions. So even if you pass this the very first time you take it, we encourage you to take it multiple times so that you can cycle through different questions. Some of our customers have come back and have said that our assessments are in fact harder than the real world exam, but it's definitely better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So jumping into the assessment, you're going to see that this text-based assessment, I'll sometimes select 1, select 2, select 3. But I brought up our data science team earlier. The most important takeaway from these exams right now is going to be that they implemented, our data science team implemented an item response theory. So what the item response theory tells us is we'll take these first 5 questions into account. If we answered all 5 correctly, we're going to see an increase in difficulty. If we didn't get a single one of them correct, then the next set of 5 questions will show a decrease in difficulty. In this fashion, we are continuously gauging how the skills are growing and adjusting. Lastly, we do encourage you to skip any questions that you don't know the answer to. All of us can get lucky once and guess a correct answer. The platform will then assume knowledge that you may not actually possess. Upon submitting the exam, we will give you the opportunity to revisit any skipped questions. But what I really want you to see here is going to be the after exam report, which is very similar to what you'll see after a lab. So of course I bombed it, but we're not only interested in the score. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see which skills were assessed, how our own individual skill score changed, along with some call to action here to either browse training or improve our score by jumping into a quiz. So now you're seeing how we're performing across all of these skills. So these domains all roll up into our overall AWS skill score, which then assumes an overall skill profile based across all of the platforms and all of your learning. Now, lastly, towards the bottom, we're going to not only provide the correct answers, we're also going to provide an explanation along with linking to external documentation where appropriate. So that is the end user experience within the Cloud Academy platform. Once more, please don't forget to throw those questions into the chat box. To wrap up the demonstration, we're going to talk about customizing absolutely everything we've seen up until this point. So our content engine will help you with exactly that. A very common use case will be that our customers will upload a security document. They want all employees to read it. So you can also generate questions against it, add them to an exam, and then add that exam to a custom learning path. So when we are customizing a learning path, we are going to have 2 options. First, build it completely from scratch. So if you already have your own resources, already have your own recorded courses that you'd like to include, you can do it completely from scratch. Or you can clone absolutely anything existing within our library. So I'll select this Azure DP900. Before, we saw the front end of the learning path. Now we're seeing the back end where you can customize the title, customize the landing page and the description, and adjust the difficulty. But on the next step is where we're going to see which steps are included in this learning path, and we can begin customizing. So from here, I can remove any courses or labs that are not pertinent to their day-to-day work life. And of course, I can add all of those custom resources, exams that I mentioned earlier. So I'll select a few here. So all of those are now added at the bottom, and we can move these steps to ensure that they are in the appropriate and most logical order. The final piece with customization will be, of course, the skills that are being tracked. So because we duplicated something from our existing library, you're seeing which skills are assessed or included in this learning path. Based on what you've added, you'll be able to include additional skills. We can also even help you customize this list to add your own unique skills that you'd like to track. So from there, we can save and publish, and we have ourselves a custom learning path.
Yeah, this is Jermaine. This is when I first joined. I've been here for almost 3 years, but when I first joined, this was starting to go out in beta, and to kind of see how it's evolved over time is extraordinary. I've really enjoyed how, like you said, it's not the main purpose here is that you can use this as little as much as you want. The customization can really be tailored according to your specific needs. So really, basic examples like you mentioned, uploading static files, so we can do those as PowerPoint, PDFs, MP4s. You can even embed videos or link out to external content, whatever you want to do there, to being able to get those questions that can verify that someone read that document, and your example, that security document, and then roll it into an exam, and even tying custom skills to that, which would then be tracked in the skill profiles as well. So you can the granularity on the difficulty level, it's all phenomenal. And then being able to get more technical with the way that you're customizing these. So I want to train my team on Kubernetes, but I also want them to know how we use Kubernetes in our stack. So I can take an existing lab, and like you did for the example on Learning Path, and clone that, be able to go in and modify steps, or adjust what I need to make it reflective of the way that we are using Kubernetes. So not just training them on the tech, but how you actually use it. So those use cases are just there's so many different ones, and this is just the kind of thing that brings everything all together. So we want to allow that flexibility for you to not have to, not such a rigid line where you only have access to what's here, but you can actually bring complete contextualization around to everything. So it's really been exciting to see how Content Engine has been adopted, some from very, like I mentioned, very basic level use cases, to then moving into, as they mature in their cloud model, more very much more highly contextualized and more technical customization of the learning that's being done there. So yeah, this is a phenomenal tool, and again, completely unique to Cloud Academy.
Absolutely. That is all I had for the demonstration.
All right. Jermaine, thanks, man. I really appreciate you, jumping on and sharing that with everyone. I always enjoy, listening to you. The passion comes through, and when you're talking about the platform, it's just exciting to hear you talk about it. So thanks again for leading that. I took a quick look at the questions document. We don't have any questions from the audience. If you have any afterwards, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You will get an end of webinar survey. We encourage you to fill that out if you're able. And then the recording of this webinar will be available on our webinars page. So you'll have that to be able to go back and reference. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Jermaine. Again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for leading us in that fantastic demo. We hope you all have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. And if we can help you out in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We look forward to hopefully hearing from you in the future. Take care, everyone. And again, appreciate your time today.